Hi, friends. I'm Shamama Lynn, and I'm here to tell you about the Purpose Embodiment Method, which is a transformation accelerator for those who are seeking this deeper purpose in life. So, you've probably had a lot of success, a lot of accomplishment, but something deeper is feeling out of sync. And that is this concept of purpose, which is something that is birthed from within. You might also be feeling a little spiritually alone or misunderstood. So maybe your traditional religion isn't quite getting you the transformation you would hope for, or maybe you've been separate or never connected to spirituality and something is calling you. The first word that might be coming to mind is intuition. You're wanting to understand a little bit more about your intuition. You're wanting to maybe do a little bit of generational healing as tap into this ancestral energy. So, this work is definitely for you if that is you. And then finally, you're in this place between knowing and embody. So, some of you may have already heard of chakras, some of the things I'm going to talk about. You may already have some spiritual concepts that you understand. You've been reading books, listening to podcasts, but it's not embodied in the way that you need. So you're ready to go to this next level so that you're really free of some of this tension that you're holding, because a lot of that tension is the disconnect between what you know and who you are becoming. So let's talk a little bit about the purpose embodiment method, which has two pathways. One is quantum energy work, and one is in person retreats. So the quantum energy work is for the person who wants to do energy work online. It's a beautiful way that we can interact the whole world. And also, some people are a little bit more sensitive about sharing information. The way the quantum energy work is set up, there's less one on one interaction. And so you're really able to work through a lot of the deeper stuff that you might be experiencing in your own container that is held online. And then finally, the in person retreats are where we really dive deep, where me as a spiritual avatar am energetically and through inquiry probing a little bit deeper. And this might be what someone might go to South America for some sort of plant medicine ceremony. I've devised a system where you can have very similar transformation connecting naturally with the elements of nature and your own creative power. It's very exciting. So let's dive in a little bit. So let's talk about what reality, because it's a mind, body, spirit transformation. The first is your subconscious mind is responsible for 90% of your thoughts and actions. So as we're evolving to the next level, there's a certain amount of self awareness to know that every human has a tendency to self sabotage and we run up against blocks. So the idea of doing energy work and also having a guide helps you rise through these unconscious barriers. The unconscious becomes conscious, and we can transform what we can see. Physical reality is 99.99% empty space. So, this is talking about the body. We perceive it as physical, but we are knowing from quantum energy and a deeper understanding that it is primarily energy. Only 0.001% of our physical world is actually matter, which is mind blowing when you actually consider it. And this is the magic of existence, is developing an understanding of that. And this is a pathway to much, much deeper understanding. Third is spirit exists. So, spirit is whatever you want to be. This is non denominational work, it is the unified field. It is rooted in love. So, if it is God, it is love at its source. And however you define it from there is really up for you. And my prayer is that we all continue to evolve our understanding of God more and more to become more embodied avatars like some of our religious leaders before. So, this is an image you may have seen before that just describes our conscious mind. So, the things that we're aware of are our logical thinking, our critical thinking, willpower, short term memory. But below the surface are all of our beliefs, emotions, habits, values. And when we get even deeper, our imagination and our intuition. And then when we get any deeper, long term memory, which one might consider past lives, and protection reactions. So we might be talking about persecution imprints, right? If you were a person who was having a spiritual awakening and all you ever knew were spiritual leaders who had been persecuted or crucified, there would be some fear of the woo. And that's something that I'm really called to give a voice to, because I was there when I was back when I was an engineer. I was an aerospace engineer with Boeing, and I started to be more curious. Something was pulling me towards this information, and half of me was so pulled to it, and the other half was really glad no one knew that I was doing this, or I didn't know what it was talking about. And I'm so glad that I pushed through. I'm so glad that I continued. And those times where I did go to those meetings, those women's circles, like I'm trying to create a budding spiritual community, was when I felt most at home in my heart and spirit. And I really did look forward to it. So we have to release this idea of woo woo and really accept the magic of life. And that is fun. So the first step is to realign our mind. This takes us from a place of stress and worry to mental clarity and wellness. Now, what do I mean? Well, the outside world is quite chaotic now. We have political, financial instability across the board, and it creates a lot of chaos in our life. And when we start to have a more abundant mindset, we can still create magic. We can still experience profound joy even in troubled times. The key is to undo some of our programming. And so, a lot of the programming of the human, way back to caveman days, is scarcity and lack, right? We've been struggling to survive forever. If we go to the spiritual route, the religious route, we have this idea of Adam and Eve, right? So the fall of man and being thrown out of the Garden of Eden to suffer for all eternity. And so, in a way, we really are playing that out very much in our minds. And how that presents itself through our unconscious programming is through the ego. And it's this feeling of not enough time, not enough money, not enough energy. So, a lot of people struggle with money, don't have enough money, and that's a very legitimate concern. But even people who are financially stable and have plenty of money still worry about money, and then also time, working very hard to save for retirement and all of that stuff, where many of those things aren't guaranteed, right? Many of these systems that are in place are not necessarily, they don't have longevity. And so another thing that comes up in this realm is judgment of classes, judgment of, on the deepest level, we see a lot of social justice happening out. So judgment of races, judgment of other religions, judgment of wars. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong, but when we start to realign our mind, we become more objective. And either way, we're tuning out the noise and we're focused on what's important to us. We're creating a field of coherence of like minded people who are keeping our eye on the prize, which is a little bit of heaven on earth. And so, what happens as we do this energy work, as we realign the mind, we step into what we could call our spiritual or our aligned self. And this being is abundant. Maybe not in all the money, but it's growing food, right? Or you have tons of money and you feel calm and you feel at peace because we feel worthy of it. There's a lot of subconscious imposter syndrome that runs a lot of our programming. And this is deep layers. And so when you start to do the work, there's a love and a forgiveness that starts with the self and radiates out, and we just tend to self sabotage a little less. So, this is where we talk about states of consciousness. So, the mind, when we think of consciousness, it is a body, mind, and spirit thing. But let's just think of it in terms of thought patterns. So let's just say a lot of us here, we're all waking up. It takes a lot of courage to wake up. So let's put most of us here at this 200. We're kind of straddling the line between living in the third dimension and moving on to a higher dimensional way of being. And that these words multi-dimension might seem kind of out there for some people. And what we're talking about is we have God, the infinite, and we have the third dimension, which is the third world we're living in. And all we're inviting is everyone to open up to what might be in between three and infinity, because there's a whole world of energies there. So as we start to do energy work, our mind has access to higher consciousness thoughts, and we start to experience more willingness. I talked about judgment, so more acceptance, more loving of ourselves, more worthiness, and we move on up the scale. Now, if we haven't started this process and we're so much in the world with the media, the news, the low vibrational foods, we might be here, but what we're constantly inputting into our mind and our body are these lower vibrational patterns. And so it keeps us from being, even though we might have this dream, there's something that we want so bad. It's like running and there's goop just pulling you back. And it is the vibration states, the subconscious patterning that comes from a lot of these external forces that it's our responsibility to realign our mind with what we want. So moving on to the body. As we said, our body is made out of 99.99% empty space. And in this world, we keep it really simple by talking about the chakra system. We have also heard these called energy centers. And this is just a way of looking at the quantum field within the body. Now, when we have a projector, let's say it has 3 colored bulbs and we project it out onto the screen, and what does it, those 3 bulbs create a complete luminosity of the outside world of the movie. So in a similar way, these chakras inside our body each have themes, and the vibration of all 7 of them together kind of project out to create the field that we observe in the outside world. One person doing energy work, a lot of it can so much transfer their field so much that they're having many, many more higher vibrational experiences. But it takes a village. This is a unified field. We're talking about oneness here. So as more and more and more people do this work, this I say to you, you would be very surprised how many people doing powerful work can, in a very, very real way, shift the outside world, shift what I call timelines. That's just got a little bit deep, but it's okay. That's what you're here for. So let's talk about, this video is just going to talk a little bit about the energy work that I do and the science behind it, that this is measurable in the body's biophoton field in literature, that energy healing is changing the body.
Scientists around the world have been looking at studying energy healers to try to isolate what that energy is that they send. And with increase in electrical energy, there's a surge in voltage. There's also a surge of magnetic energy. And there's a huge surge in these biophoton emissions, the current of light coming from the body, particularly from a healer's dominant hand. Now, we're not talking about ordinary energy because we know that healing can occur over vast distances. So probably what's going on here is much more complicated. There's probably some sort of quantum effect which doesn't require any kind of distance. That can be the same effect over any kind of distance. Or it may be a combination of all of the above.
I've done numerous studies since about 1978 on energy healing. And one of the systems that I've studied are cell cultures in the laboratory. And I found beneficial effects repeatedly on cells in the lab, especially cells that needed healing, that had been damaged by antibiotics or temperature shocks. When healers placed their hands on the cultures or nearby, or even in distant healing cases, the cells recovered faster than the control cultures that were not treated by them. And that's a remarkable effect because it shows that the power of energy healing goes beyond the biology of belief or a placebo effect. The fact that cell cultures can respond means that the cells in our bodies are also responding to energy healing, not just our minds, but it's working at all the levels of our beings.
Every level of your being, body, mind, and spirit. So I like to get, I'm the Shamama, right? I like to get a little ceremonial and tap into those feminine vibes. But at the end of the day, this is science and this is psychology. So let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy needs and the evolutionary journey that humans are on. So if you look at this green section, this is where most of you are right now. You are in self esteem. You have a certain amount of confidence. You've achieved a lot of things. You have the respect of others. But inside, there's something missing. There's something more that you're called to. And this is the process of self actualization. Everything's all set up on the outside. Now, what's next? This is having an experience of a self purpose, of meaning, and of manifesting the inner potential. I call this embodiment. Now, the way this triangle is laid out, it's lovely how there's a barrier or a line between the two levels, because this is the process of having to break through all the subconscious programming to get from one level to the next. And this is why we have guides. This is why we have transformation accelerators, because I have been at this type of work for 15 years and it's no joke. I have had a number of guides throughout my life, and I've done it in other ways. I've sat 9, 10 day Vipassanas. I lived 6 months with shamans in Peru. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And as you get to know me, you'll understand my resume a little bit more. But again, this is about you and just acknowledging the facts, which is okay, no matter who I am, no matter what level of success I've had, there is something under me, subconscious, that would be keeping me from the next level because that's how humans are. And so, this is your invitation to step into now that the world is clearly at a tipping point. Now is the time to be doing this work to get ourselves aligned, to get ourselves regulated and ready to radiate this light, radiate this purpose, and in these chaotic times, there can be joy, there can be happiness. What if that's what you're here to do, is share the good stuff? So, in order to prepare the vessel for this higher dimensional consciousness that is just ready to be embodied by you, we have to regulate the system, because within your body is the consciousness that is very comfortable where it's at. In general, the ego does not like change, it does not want to evolve. All evolution is usually caused by some sort of dramatic catalyst pushing us to the point of no return. And we're really seeing that in our world, both politically and socially. And I know that that's also playing out in some way, shape, or form in your personal life or in your internal world. And so, what we're here to overcome is the programming of what it means to have a purpose, what it means to be in alignment and let go of anxiety and burnout. So, again, we need to release some of this family and culture programming that keeps us stuck in a lower vibration. Now, I'm going to appeal to your vanity a little by pointing out these two pictures of me before and after my transformation began. And you can see I'm about 40 pounds lighter now. But more importantly, it wasn't a career change. It was an embodiment of my highest self that turned out to be a shaman and a visionary artist. Who knew? Well, actually, I always knew, because when I was a little kid, all I ever wanted to be was a dancer. And becoming an aerospace engineer was part of the journey. It's such an amazing miracle. And as you start doing this work, the purpose unfolds and you realize every minute of your life you've already been on purpose. And so now is that time for some conscious awareness and that guidance. So, how it plays out is a lot of us in the day to day aren't eating the food we want to eat. We don't feel healthy. We don't feel vibrant. We're just kind of keeping up. And a lot of that is the processed foods and the lower vibrational media, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it's so much streaming. Especially at like the top 10 shows that we're streaming are often very high intensity, and that creates a lot of even more anxiety in the body. So as you do energy work, naturally the body starts to crave higher, more evolved input foods in terms of the body and media sources in terms of the mind. And this is a natural thing that happens with the energy work, because a lot of people have in their mind like, oh, I don't want to change, I don't want to give this up. Well, the part of you that doesn't want to give up whatever thing that you're attached to that you know isn't the best for you, that's your lower self. as you embody the higher potential of yourself, you actually don't want those things. So there isn't a feeling of giving up anything. It's about aligning with the higher dimensional self. And once we've done those, we get to radiate the spirit. And so these are just 3 little pictures of me in my NASA days, floating in 0G, finding the fire. This is that what I'm calling divine feminine Christ consciousness, or just the more feminine flow. This is for men and women. It's more about embodying the feminine qualities of the unseen, the unknown, the intuition. And so this is the idea of radiating your spirit. We're going to become more connected with our higher self or our intuition. So I am very much a medium, and people that work for me one-on-one will definitely agree, but it's not in the same way that I'm like psychic or reading your energy. There's something within me that just knows the right questions to ask. And if I'm honest, yes, I know it's like your higher self or your ancestors or something that I just have an openness and a resonance that they come through me. But for me, it's not, I'm not sitting in some sort of channeled state, channeling your loved ones. I am just embodied in the field in a way that allows me to connect to the oneness of what's happening on that field. And then I can share that vibration with you. And by experiencing it and knowing it, it becomes embodied by you and higher version of yourself. So this disconnection, in the past, we are disconnected because we're limited to this idea of a third dimension. We're not thinking about what it means to live in a quantum world. What is that? And of course, religions have done a lot of good in the world and also a lot of bad. So I'm not here to trash religions. I'm here to evolve and expand. And so in the present, these programs of disconnection lead to a lot of secularism, meaning there are a lot of people that go to church or celebrate Easter and Christmas, but they don't really understand the history of it, the pagan roots, the political parts that came into this religion. And because we know there's something that's not perfectly aligned with them, we shut them out altogether. So we have no faith and we have a lot of doubt. On the other hand, there's people who unconsciously throw everything they have into one religion and have no ability to open up. So it's, again, a limited point of view. So as we do the energy work, this is about coming into contact with a trusted guide, a trusted leader. So look, we have disconnection to connection and community, and then to authentic leadership. And something in you just is like, okay, yeah, I'll give this a try. And what happens? You will experience a sense of the sacred. In an embodied sense, whatever your belief system is will be either reinforced or maybe shifted a little bit, or in some cases, you might set down your current belief system to bring in a new one and then later come back to it. And this is the wonderful part about this world, is the freedom is yours to explore. And as you do energy work, you're trusting the intuition more. And again, I use this word radiate because over time, it's about bringing heaven on earth to earth through us radiating the Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, namaste values, whatever you want to call it. So now I just like to share a couple testimonials because it's very difficult to put into words what an inner spiritual transformation is. And so if you're still here, there's something within you that's still curious. So let's see what some of my past one-on-one clients have experienced with this work.
The first one's super simple. How did I help you?
Well, that's a super simple question. How did you help? I mean, how did you not help is probably a better question.
You already have connection. So anyway, that's huge. And I feel that's definitely from the energy work. I mean, like, I would not be where I am today without it. I mean, I'm like a completely transformed person than I was, 2 months ago.
To do the generational healing that's needed to positively affect my family, and Lynn is like really somebody who gets that and is like right there with me on that level. Lynn, I just feel like you're kind of the perfect balance of like, you know, you've got the groundedness, and then you're also like, you have the ability to go like way up and out here and then come back. You know, that's important. I'm just really in a place where I feel much more aligned with myself, aligned with my own purpose, understanding more like who I need to be serving.
Biggest struggle was I was so mind-based with the desire to be aligned and whole, mind, body, and spirit, and I really did not know how to embody release of self-limiting beliefs or traumatic related blocks. I didn't even know I had two traumatic related blocks. So I didn't know the beauty that would come out of learning how to release those, that feeling of calm and connectedness inside the body, because I'm a head-based person.
I slept, trusting that I was safe, trusting that I was safe in my body, and trusting that I would know how to respond and react appropriately. And that I will wholeheartedly attribute to this program and the work that I've done with Lynn. And I just have to say, like, wow, look at me, Lynn, I'm all lit up.
You remind me who I am. When I look at you, I see me. When I see you dance, I see the part of me that's me, that's so truly me. And I was so far away from that. I was getting so far away from it, and I was angry and I was frustrated. Doing this work with Lynn, just taking the time for me, like taking the time to get back to who I am, remembering that these things that are crazy in my life, they're super big choices I've made that either I can unmake, I can change, I can adjust, but mostly sitting down, taking the time, breathing, going over the layers of why.
Like, this is one of the things I love about doing work with Lynn, is that she allows for all these emotions, for even for herself. And it's just so refreshing to have somebody leading that's willing to show what's coming up for them in any given moment. It just gives, I think it gives permission for all of us when we allow that space. She's just so eloquent with how she talks about things, and so intuitive, like so intuitive. The things that come out of her mouth are just always something that I need to hear, and things are coming in. Like, I got three new client referrals this week. Honestly, it's been a really soft, tender, lovely, I don't know, like the experience has just been, it's been a very gentle experience, which is surprising given how much has shifted.
So this is a gentle experience where you will experience profound shifts. You're going to realign your mind by having more power over your thoughts and reactions and releasing self-limiting beliefs. A lot of times we don't even think about what we believe if it's self-limiting. And so when we have these frequency shifts, we can begin to see what isn't serving us. And you get the mental clarity to trust yourself, to lead with confidence that if you're changing in the right way. Your body is going to be much more regulated. You heard in those testimonials, a lot of people talking about feeling that sense of calm, feeling aligned. And so this is an inner quality which you're going to experience possibly for the first time. But you're going to also have more energy that's going to fuel your creativity and focus. And whether that's at your job, you want more creativity and focus to move up the ranks, more into leadership, or if you're happy and content with your job and you want to start focusing on extracurriculars. You know, back when I was doing this work, when I started this work, I was a big partier. And so all of my extra time was kind of just drinking with friends. And I know that the times are changing and people are interested in doing other things with their time. And so this is where art and creativity and nature and hiking and all of the things that I just never did in my 30s, or in my 20s and a little bit in my 30s, I would wish that I would have done. And then finally, radiating the spirit. So this is feeling that deeper alignment with a purpose. You're on course. You have a connection with your higher self and creative flow. And this brings in this authentic embodied leadership. And it isn't about talking about religion or talking about what you believe. This is where it's this idea of embodying. You radiate it. I talk a lot of it about this idea of being a queen bee, and the idea that the queen bee is just there living. Whatever it is that she radiates out, the hive just automatically understands it. And so, in your sphere of influence, this work is offering you to elevate yourself to the queen bee status where everyone in your world is cohesive and smooth, and and you're just riding this wave of planetary transformation, relatively peaceful. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you don't mind, I'd like to share a little bit more about how I deliver this work. I mentioned the method had both quantum work and a retreat path. So, this is my 6-month spiritual transformation accelerator. You go through these ceremonies pre-recorded, and you receive energy work every week for it's 4 months, but there's, when we're going through this work, there's kind of a integration process. So you get 6 months access to what is called my quantum portal, which is 2 live calls a month. And then you get to go through in your own time, in your own energy, these healing sessions. And this is great for a person who might be a little bit more private. Everybody's got a story. That's what I've started to learn. And a lot of the high achievers are projecting out a sense of having it all together, and deep down there's stuff, even if it's just your parents got divorced or whatever the story is. We all have things that I bet you're starting to feel called to look at, and maybe you don't feel comfortable with traditional therapy or some of the other things that other people do. This is for you. Now, I also have one-on-one work. So just like when we're doing this work, because the subconscious online, we can only go so deep. But when you have a one-on-one guide in this loving container, I can take you just a little bit deeper to get through deeper layers, removing more energy. So this academy is available in both a online do-it-yourself format and one-on-one and small group as well for small businesses, or I hope someday even large corporations. Similarly, we have transformation through in-person retreat. So this is what I call align with love through nature and creativity. So love is this universal source. And through returning, remember I talked about earlier about feminine energy. So through nurturing the natural world, the nature, through creativity, through dance, through all these different types of modalities, you're going to create the energy field that's going to allow for rapid transformation. It's in March, and the bonus of this retreat is it comes with 6 months of the Purpose Embodiment Academy. So on this retreat in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, there's going to be daily energy practices such as sound bowls, Reiki, and ceremonies. The whole retreat is a science and spirit integration. I really want to bring this work down in a very, very grounded way. And so as you saw in one of the testimonials, I have the ability to go way, way out, and it's going to bring you way, way back in. And sometimes the going way, way out is going to test different people in different ways. And that's the beautiful thing about the community and the belonging. So this is going to be an intimate group that is going to bring together the perfect people. It's a soul level connection. So everybody here, it is guaranteed to be a safe and fun. This is going to be a fun retreat expansion. And so this is where we have embodied creativity. There's going to be dance. There's going to be movement. Fire spinning. Fire spinning is not, it's safe when done with a professional, and it's so transformational, right? The fire is the catalyst for transformation. Fire is movement. And then of course, aerial, which is an art that I completely love, being suspended in the air, spinning. And this is about strength, about becoming more strength. And some of you might take one of these modalities back and have a new hobby, a new creative thing that you like to do. Instead of going to a gym and running on a treadmill, you might find an aerial studio or a circus school or a pole studio. The possibilities are endless. I want to help you expand your possibilities of what is available. And then within this container, there's going to be plenty of time for reflection and connection with nature, with Mother Earth and the feminine energy within you, the self-care. In this crazy world, this is your invitation to step outside, to take some space, to create a container, to get really clear and aligned with what it is you want in your life. So there's nothing to do here other than connect with me. If you are feeling ready for a shift, or if you're just curious about how this might pertain to what's going on specifically in your life, the call to action here is very simple. It's to book a free purpose activation call. Now, because I am a medium and a spiritual guide, you will find just being on the phone for 30 minutes with me, you will get a thought or an idea or something that's going to act as a mini catalyst, a mini activation for you moving forward. I promise that. But then you're going to be able to find out if one of my offerings is right for you. Because as a spiritual guide, I'm not here to sell you anything. This whole business thing is not necessarily my zone of genius yet, but I'm working on it and I'm showing up consistently and I'm showing up authentically. And if we get on the phone and what I'm offering, what I'm telling you doesn't resonate as a hell yes, you're not going to feel pressure to sign up for something that you're not ready for. Yes, I am here to open the container and open the field of what's possible for you, but I'm not here to push you in any way. This is as you heard in the testimonials, it's a gentle experience for those that are ready. So if you are ready, if you are curious, I invite you to book a purpose activation call. And it would just be my honor to connect with. I want to know who's curious. If nothing else, you can look at this as market research for Shamama Lynn about how I can get this work out to people that are curious about going to the next level. So many blessings. It's my honor, and I can't wait to speak with you.